What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. More specifically, some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility, and where I see things going. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. So with SoFi closing on Thursday in the red, it was still within the set range. And for those of you that do options, like I've said time and time again, SoFi is one of the very perfect options plays because it does have a lot of volatility, but yet does trade within a set range. Because last weekend, as I do every weekend, I do these videos on some expectations. Last weekend, I anticipated SoFi to be relatively flat, and ultimately that's where it landed. This upcoming week kind of has the same vibe somewhat, but there is a sense of optimism that could really start to kind of kick it off in the uptrend. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. But when it comes to data points, there's two things to really watch for. Well, I guess two subjects. One is consumer related data. And the first one is on Wednesday. So that is ADP non-farm employment. 149,000 is the forecast. Second one is payroll, and that's coming out on Friday. Aside from that, the second topic is Feds. So you are going to see Bowman, I believe, on Tuesday, kicking it off. And then you do have Powell as well. There's a ton of Fed speakers throughout the week, as you can kind of see. So the Bowman once again on the Wednesday, as well as Powell. So he does talk on his economic outlook. And there's so much just happening this week. Nothing really crazy, but at the same time, the market is somewhat on edge. So they're going to be looking for the first sign of a crack. First red flag essentially is going to cause a very significant pullback. So again, that's going to play into SoFi and the technicals, so I'll go over that in a second. But on the flip side, you do have the fear and greed index at 71. So people's appetite for risk going into this week is going to be relatively high. And surprisingly enough, that's been the case for the last month and a half. Despite a lot of red flags that have been popping up, this damn fear and greed index has been really holding up. So again, that's kind of a positive thing. When it comes to SoFi for this upcoming week, there isn't anything planned, no conferences, nothing like that. And I believe it's been a good old week since any random 8Ks that have come out after hours. So no real surprises as far as that. Shorts though, they have been somewhat kicking around somewhat. So of course, as of the 15th, there was a record high short interest. So again, that's something to just keep in mind. We are kind of back at the SPAC level scenario for SoFi, but 20.47% of the free float is being shorted. 201.7 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization is 71.48. And with that 201 million shares, that works out to be a grand total of $1.47 billion in shorts. So shorts have been a pain in SoFi. I do feel, this might be somewhat of a bold statement, but I do feel that SoFi won't have a squeeze, but I do feel shorts will start to close out some of their positions as probably closer to the end of the week or in the next couple weeks. And that is linked to their earnings. As far as I've seen some people post saying that the earnings is coming right around the corner, I don't believe they've actually come out and said when it is going to be. It's just estimates right now, because even on Seeking Alpha, it does show April the 30th as the estimated earnings date. But for instance, even if you do Google it, because Google is always accurate all the time, that one does show May the 6th. So obviously nobody necessarily knows right now, but historically there's always been a FOMO rally leading up to SoFi's earnings. And then regardless of the results, as I've said in the past, there's always a sell-off. So we'll just have to wait and see, but I do feel there will be another kind of rally leading up to that. And as a result of that known rally, shorts will kind of close out some of the position, possibly even pulling it back to maybe 16% for the short interest, but that might be too optimistic. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. When it comes to SoFi, this is the open interest and the layout with it closing at $7.31. That does mean this down is all going to be exercised. So you'll see a very minor bump up in the price on Monday. So the market is open. I've seen some people ask some questions. Is the market open? Yes, it is open. No restricted hours, nothing like that. But as a result of these being exercised, it's going to be very small because was 6,000 at the 7, 1,000 at the 650, 2,000 at the 6. Very small numbers, so you're not really going to see anything crazy. But like I've said in the past, there's two things that really moves SoFi. One is technicals, second is manipulation. And so essentially, looking at the open interest going into next week, you do see a kind of a free and clear run to at least the $8 mark. Of course, $8, there's going to be probably another wall, but who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. Big money has been accumulating. So on Thursday, even though it was a long weekend, you did see a nice amount of buying that did happen after hours. And that was largely because Thursday was the last trading day for the quarter. So a lot of institutions were rebalancing. 1.75 million, 6.63, 1.15 million. Even on the dark pool, very, very popular. So you do see some pretty big ones here. So 1.33 million, 1.36 and so forth. So quite a lot. As I've said in the past, usually dark pool is linked to shorting. That's just their way around the system. Very unfortunate, but then again, that's kind of the manipulation that SoFi deals with on a daily basis. Some points to watch for with SoFi closing on Thursday at $7.30, $7.47, and then vice versa, $7.23 will be that next strong support. So support and resistance points. Like I've said, I do feel SoFi will be at least free and clear to run to the $8 range. So most likely it'll be able to get above this S1, but it will close between this S1 and the $8 self-made resistance level. Of course, like I said, a lot of things could really change that. The first sign of a red flag across the market, and especially Powell is speaking and a lot of consumer linked data. Like if any of that is red, then you are going to see a significant pullback, because on SoFi's case, it has been really kind of building some good momentum for the technicals, but at the same time, it has been failing to get above this S2 kind of sufficiently. So usually when it comes to technicals, when it kind of fails a third time, it will just completely head back down to kind of this S3. So I know it's very vague, but there's different circumstances. The market is being very much propped up on a lot of hope of the Fed's cutting rates sooner rather than later. And if Powell comes on into his high horse and just decides to pop that bubble, then optimism and the fear and greed index as a result will go down dramatically. Looking on the actual chart though, this is what I've been talking about. So you do see a lot of good build up and good support being formed. So going into next week, you will see a nice attempt into the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, but like I've mentioned, around that 788 and that $8 range, this is where you'll be faced with that 50 and 100-day moving average. So a lot of heavy resistance at that stage. Looking at the stochastic, you do see a start as of Thursday, a bearish deviation, so red line above the white. As well, it is at 42, so it's considered somewhat neutral, so it's not really overbought, nor is it oversold. A number of retail investors have been getting out of SoFi based off of the momentum indicator. So overall, I still feel like there is a lot of good optimism that can happen and cause SoFi to get to at least the $8 range. But like I said, the broader market has been very hopeful on interest rates being cut sooner rather than later, aka probably around June. I think that's around 70% chance. But if someone was to come and pop that bubble, then this is where SoFi's technicals and many other things will kind of cause it to get back down to where it was, so that S3. Kind of unfortunate, but that's just what happens with SoFi. Like I said though, there will be most likely a buildup leading up to their earnings, and I think again this earnings will be another home run. There's nothing really to signal otherwise, but what do I know? I'm not a financial advisor. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And as well, I know this video came out rather late, but happy Easter for all of you that do celebrate. And yeah, hopefully everyone had an amazing long weekend, and with all that, appreciate all of you watching.